Masechta Avoda zara daf Tes Hamad Aleph. We're starting from Ches Hamad Beis, the last line. So the Gemara goes back to the words of Rabbi Yishmael, but it was Shem Ovid, meaning Rabbi Yossi, and explains where's the proof that the Romans kept that treaty for 26 years with the Yidden. So the Gemara, it says that the Romans ruled for Mei Ushmeinim for 180 years. In fact, the Gemara Vesulai, that's it. But Rabbi Yossi had learned in the Seder Elam that if the Bayis Sheni was built under Kodesh Melech Paras, Malchus Paras B'fnei Habayis Shlishim Rabba Shanim. Paras ruled for 34 years. Then Malchus Yavim B'fnei Habayis. Then the Greeks took over and they ruled for Mei Ushmenim Shvanim for 180 years. Malchus Chashmonaim B'fnei Habayis, and the Chashmonaim ruled by the second Beis Hamikdash Mei V'Shalosh, 203 years. Malchus Beis Hudas, and then Malchus Beis, the ruler of Beis Hudas, ruled Mei V'Shalosh another 103. If you add up all these numbers, it comes out that the Bayis Sheni between all the Meluchas was 420 years. Now the Chacham would count from after that, meaning from after the Churban. That's what they would write in the Shtarchev or in the Gittin. They would go calculate according to the years after the Churban, which the Gemara will speak in Arichas later. So the Gemara also we see that that the Romans ruled between the Chashmonaim and Beis Hudas 206 years. You said, Rabbi Yishmael said that the Romans ruled only 180 years. Ella, we have to say, that 26 years they weren't subjugated to the Romans. They were not subjugated. And because of that, he didn't count those 26 years. So therefore, if you minus 26 from 206, you're left with 180. When the Romans subjugated the Yidden, that was for 180 years. So you have a raya that 26 years, the Yidden weren't subjugated under the Romans, and they kept the treaty. The Romans kept the treaty with the Yidden. So before we start, the Greeks, when the Goyim would calculate the years according to the Malchus Yavim, meaning from when the Malchus Yavim had ruled over the whole world. So we say it was 206, but it's not really 206. You don't count the. I'm sorry, it was 380 years, but from Malchus Yavim, because that's 34 years was Malchus Parei, but from Malchus Yavim when they took over. Even though we don't count the first 6 years, because the first 6 years they only ruled over Elam, but we count only from when they conquered and ruled over the whole world. So that was 380 years until the Churban. 380 years from when Malchus Yavim had, from right after the Churban. If you go back years to when Malchus Yavim had ruled over the whole world, it was 380 years, and Yidden would count from after the Churban. Papa said, if the Tana who counts from the Churban is not sure about the single years, of course the millenniums and centuries, they remember 100,000 years. They do remember, but they don't remember the one or two. But they didn't know the single years, how many they were. They should go to the Sefer, the Goyim who write the Goyish dates, and find out how many years is it from Malchus Yavim, and then it will allow you Esen Shnin, and to that they would add 20 years. L'mashal, 380 years was right by the Churban. It was 380 years. Let's say we're already 21 years that had passed after the Churban. So if you count from the Greek years, they wouldn't do 401. They would do 1, or they would do 2. So, if it's 22 years after the Churban, they would write 02. Or if it's 1 year, if the 21 years, they would write 01. Like we have 20, we write, we don't write the 20, we write just 21, 22. So over there it was, let's say, if it was 22 years of the Churban, so if they were counting from the centuries, they would write 01, 02. So how would they make a cheshbon? If, let's say, it was already 402 years after the Churban, so it needs to Allah yes and Shay. If they had it, they would add. So the Tana would add 20 years, or instead of them writing the full amount, or if it was let's say 15, if they wrote 15, which means 415, it was 15, they would add 20, so it would be 35 after the Churban. If it was 400 years, let's say 401, by the Goyim, from since the count is 401 from when Melech Yavin took over, by the Goyim. So the Yid would add 20 because he counts for the Churban. So the Churban was 380 years. That's after the rulership of Yavam. So he would add 20, and if it's 401, he would add 21. If it's 415, he would have 20 from in the 420 belongs to the Churban, because 380 years, the mark from when the Churban happened, and you're in 4, and the guy is writing 415, so you take 20 out of the 400 plus 15. That's above the 400, so it's 35. And that's how you would find the calculations. And the siman is Zeli Esem Shana. When it was 400 or 401, 400, how do you know that you would add 20 years? Because it says the siman would be Zeli Esem Shana. The Tana brings down that this is 20 years that I have been in your house. Rashi gives the three digmayas. If the guy counted 400 years, so then the Tana would count 20 years. If the guy counted 401 years from the Melucha Malchus Yavan, then he would count, the Tana would write in his get or whatever, 21 years from the Churban. If the Sefer the guy wrote 410 years, so then the Tana would count 30 years from the Churban. If the Sefer wrote 501, so then the Tana would write 121 years. Okay, those were the Gemais that Rashi gave. If the Sefer the Goy wasn't clear, the minyan or the amount of years from when the Greeks ruled, even though he knows for sure the how many hundreds, but he doesn't know which exact single year. He should ask the Tana, how many years is he counting from the Churban? And he should deduct 20 years. And that's how we would find his calculations, through deducting 20 years from the years that the Tana is counting, who's counting for the Churban, who usually adds those 20 years. The Sefer who's counting from the Malchus Yavam deducts those 20 years, and he would come to the exact years of Malchus Yavam. And Rashi gives a couple of digmayas. One is, let's say the guy goes to the year, he asks, how many years from the Churban? He says 230. So 230, so the Sefer deducts 20 and adds to the 380 210. And 210 plus 380 is 610. And the same thing, let's say if the Tana is counting 210 years, so he has to deduct 20 years, so it's 190 plus 380, so that will be 590. And that's how Rashi gives the example. And the siman will be who has to add 20 years, who has to deduct 20 years. Safra, Betzira, Safra is always deducts, and Tana, Teisva. Tana always adds. Even Mechal, by a Sefer, you see, by mezuzah, sometimes you have mezuzahs with one vav, with two vav, and he deducts one vav. That's how a Sefer works. About Mashen came. Tana always adds. Okay, so you might have Tana Eliyahu. We learned in the Braisa in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Eliyahu. Sheish Alaf Mishana Habayaylam. The world will be for will exist for 6,000 years. Shnei Alafim, the first 2,000 years, Torah will be without Torah. Shnei Alafim, and 2,000 years will be with Torah. Shnei Alafim, and the last 2,000 years will be Yemei Mashiach. But because of our sins have been a lot, Yotzmahem, Masha Yotzmahem. We're still many years of those the last 2,000 years that Mashiach should have been here and didn't come, but that's because of our sins. It says Gemara Shnei Alaf Torah Me'emas. When do we start counting the 2,000 years of Torah? If we're going to say Shas Matan Torah from when the Torah was given on Sinai, that cannot be Ad Hashta, because till now that means till the end of the 4,000 Leika Kulihai. You don't have 2,000 years of Torah, the Chmiayins Behu, because if you look into the years from the creation of the world till Matan Torah, you'll see Tei Alpha Prate, the high Alpha who the Havoi, you'll see that this Tkufa is long, is the first Tkufa is till Matan Torah is not 2,000, it's 2048. Matan Torah happened many more years into the 3,000. It wasn't a clean 2,000. It happens to be. It was it was 448 minus 2,000. And Rashi gives the cheshbon from the creation of the world. He goes to Adam, and you go. Let's go straight till from Adam Sheis. He counts all the years. Adam was 130 years. Sheis was 105, and Ish was 90. And he goes through all of them. If you come to Avram, I'll jump to Avram. Avram was was born 1948 from after the creation of the world. If you count from 1948, and then you add Yitzchak, which is another 60, so you're already 2108. Then you count Yaakov, which is another 130 years until Galus Mitzrayim. So it comes out that Matan Torah was given in the year going into the third 2,448 years after the creation of the world. So there's no. So you're already in the 3,448 years, while the Torah hasn't been yet given, and you're saying there's 2,000 years of Torah. Says no, only we're counting from when? From the story and the description of Avram Avinu when he left from the land of his birth. It says, Vayikach Avram es Sarai Ishta. Avram has taken Sarai, his wife, as late ben Achov, v'sanefesh asher asu b'charim. And those souls that he was Megaya in the city of Charan. So from when he was Megaya, those people in Charan, that's when we start counting the years. He was 52 years old. So we know he was born in 1948. So 1948 plus 52, that makes it to 2000. So that's when the Torah started. From when he was Megayer, he's Yidden. That's the starting of the 2000 years of the Torah years. Kama b'tziram, Kama, how many years were missing to the 2000 years? It says the Gemara, Arba Meya ve'aboyim Usmanya Shnin Havyan. It was 448 years that were missing from the Bris Ha'olam. When you look into the account of the years, you'll see the nefesh, the gating that Abraham and Sarai were Megayer, which you're counting, which was 52 plus 1948, he was born, that's 2000, till Matan Torah was Abba Ma'ah, Rabbi Mismanashim. It was 448 years. But we're not counting from them, we're counting from when Abraham was Megayer, the people in Haran, till the end of the 4,000 years. So you have 2,000 clean years of Torah, because you count the 30 years from when Avram and Sarah were Megaya, the people. Amar Papa said, if you learn the Braises, meaning, and you're not sure the exact year you're in, meaning now the Gemara wants to bring that they're counting from when? They're counting from, meaning if you want to count from Yemei Mashiach. So we know that if you count after Yitzis Mitzrayim was 480 years, and after the 480 years till Shlomo HaMelech built the Bayis Rishon, which was 410 years, then you had Golos Bavel 70 years, then you had Bayis Hasheni, which is another 420 years, and then you had the Churban, which was 172 years. That would make it, after the Churban, 172 years, that would bring it up to 4,000. So the Sefer, the Goyim, in order to count from Yemei Mashiach, they started 72 years after the Churban. But the Goyim would count 380 years till the Churban, counting from when Malchus Yavon ruled over the whole world. Then plus 172 years till after the Churban to count for Yemei Mashiach, which is 552 years. So now, if you want to, if somebody wants to calculate from a guy, he doesn't know the how many years is it after Mashiach. So from counting from the days that Mashiach should have came, so that would have to be 48 years. Let's say it says 49, and to make an even number, if it was 601 years from when the Yevonim have ruled, that's what it says in the Goyish Shtar, then you know it's 49 years. 49 years of Yemei Mashiach. If it's 600, then you know it's 48 years. It's 610, then you know it's 58 years. So that's what he's saying. If somebody, if a Tana doesn't remember the exact years, how many exact years is it in Yemei Mashiach? He should ask the Sefer, how many years is it from the Greeks? So let's say we know 552 years makes it, meaning 380 of till the Churban, and to make it to 4,000, to the 4,000 to Yemei Mashiach was 172 years, but so that would be 552. And if you want to go to a guy and see what's the exact years, let's say it was 600 years, so you know automatically it's 48 years already into Yemei Mashiach. If it's 601, it's 49 years. We need to allow you add 48 years, and you'll find your calculations. And in order to remember how many years you have to add, so you say a year. Like he brings down 48 cities. These are the 48 cities that were given to the Levium, that will be returned to them in Yemei Mashiach. Says the Gemara, now the same thing is if the Sefer would make a mistake in the calculations counting for Malchus Yavam. Neshayla letamna kamat katana. You should ask the Tana, how many years is he learning? Is he calculating in Yemei Mashiach? Let's say it's 148. So so he should deduct 48 years. That would calculate for him for Malchus Yavam. And he'll find his calculations. And the Simon is, like we said before, Safra Batzir, the Sefer always deducts, and the Tana Teisvan, the Tana always adds. So you want to Rav Huna had said, Rav Yeshua had said, Hi Mandalo Yoda coming Shnei B'Shavua, one who doesn't know which year of the Mazah Shemitah is, who aimed that he's standing in. So of course we know that the cycle started from after the Churban, But the Churban started Tisha B'Av. So the first year of the Shemitah was Taka that year of when the Churban happened. But we don't count it as the year of the Churban because most of the year the Beis Hamikdash existed. So we count from the year after the Churban. But we count already with an additional one while the Beis Hamikdash was around because that year is when the Churban happened. But we don't count that year as a Churban because most of the year the Beis Hamikdash existed. So v'nachshe klolei b'yevlei. You count the in general how many yevels there are. Uprati b'shavuah, and the leftover years b'shavuah. L'mashal, let's say there's 1,000 years. Okay, 1,000 years, or give it 1,003, 1,004 years since the Churban. So every yevel, every 100 years, there's a yevel plus. We're learning. Like Rabbi Yehuda, that every Yovel is 49 years. So you have every 100 years, you have 2 Yovels plus 2 years left over. If you have now 10, that means 10 hundreds and 1,000. So you have 20 Yovels plus 2 years, 20 years, plus we said it's 3 years, 1,003 years. So you have 24 years. So it's 3 Shemitah years, that which is 21 plus going into the 4th cycle of Shemitah, which is another 2 years or 3 years if it's 1,003 or 1,004. V'nishka b'meya trei, he says you deduct 2 years out of every 100 from the Yovel, the 2 Yovels there's left over 2 years. V'nishdei aprati, and you add it to the pratis the kaminyan. The prati is the account. V'nachshovinu leprati b'shavua, and those, like I gave you the cheshbon. Let's say it's 1,003 years, so there are 20 yovels, but there are 2 years left from each 100. So there's 20 years, and if it's 1,004 years, let's say, so you have 24 years of shemitah. So it's three shmitas is 21, and now you're into the 4th shemitah for a couple of years. You'll know which marzer the leftover single years are. It's in the, let's say over here, like we said, after 1,000 years, 1,003, you're already going into the 4th Shemitah cycle. The Simanach and the Simanim, how we know that we follow the Shita, that the Yovel is 49 years and not 50, because it says, Kizesh Nasayim Arov B'Karav. So from this pasuk we learn out that it's 2 years left over. So this is the raya that we follow the Shita Rabbi Yehuda, Kizesh Nostayim Arov B'Karav Haaretz, that these are already the 2 years of hunger in the land. So the Gemara said, first we count the Nasher Klali, the B'Yevle, we count the big numbers, and then Uprati and the leftover numbers from each 100 years, which are 2 years, that we count towards the Shemitah cycle years. Rabbi Chanina said, after 400 years to the minion of Churban Habayis, if a person will say to you, buy this field, I'm giving you a bargain of your life for a that's worth 1,000 dinar, for 1 dinar, don't buy it, because the Gullus is going to end. And the Yidden will gather into Eretz Yisrael, and they're going to get the nachla. Therefore, it's not kedai to buy the kakos, even for 1 penny, because whatever you're going to pay, it's going to go leibud. It's going to be worthless. Masnisa Tana, in the Brayse we learn Achar Aboya Alpayim Umasayim Ushloishim Achar Shana Libris Eilam. After 4,231 years to the creation of the world. If a person will say, so that buy a field that's Shaveh Elef dinar, that's worth 1,000 dinarim, but dinar for just for 1 dinar, I will not buy it. In fact, you might be nice. What's the chiluk between the first gisa and this gisa? And if you want to keep a night lashon, the chiluk is 3 years. The masnista taf yot lashnin mishnei, because the Braisa added another 3 years to what Rabbi Chanina had established when the Gullus will end. He was married to the Gullus another 3 years. According to Rabbi Chanina, 4,231 is 403 years after the Churban, which is an additional is 3 years later than what the first Gisa had said.